In the last video, I said that I didn't have much to theorize on, but I did find a ton of little secrets that I'd like to discuss. Things you might not have noticed or thought about before, but they're very important. As the title states, this video is just going to be a bunch of disconnected theories put together. There's a lot we have to get through, so let's not waste any time. Some people might say that Litost is the least interesting shoe. I don't agree, I think it's someone else, but that's beside the point. Litost could be a very important character in the future, and here's why. In the chapter, Chenzu holds a lot of animosity for Litost, so much so that she only participated in the Tenshu's war to kill Litost. And that is because of something heinous that he's done. She talks about heinous crimes and blood debts. He must have done something terribly wrong that would warrant this amount of hatred from Chenzu. It's possible that we've heard about this before. If you remember in chapter 1, we heard that he committed the Great Panic of Amber Street, but we also heard that he committed an even greater sin that is considered unforgivable. It's the reason Litost threw himself in prison and made that annoying dog. He wanted that dog to kill him for this unforgivable sin that he committed. Even Baiji called it irredeemable. So this might be that same sin, especially since Litost wanted her to succeed in killing him. That's exactly what he told the dog to do in prison. This raises one question though. What exactly is this sin? While there's no way of knowing right now, we can speculate it has to do with the power he has, because it's kind of dangerous. When the match between Chenzu and Litost started, he didn't even have to do anything to win. Chenzu just punched him and that made her go unconscious for some reason. During the Bailin segment, a guy started giving Bailin a hard time and she closed her eyes, scared. And when she opened them again, the man's gone, and Litost is standing right next to where the man should have been. Furthermore, you can faintly see smoke rising from where the man was. It doesn't help that when Bailin asks where the man went, Litost says this. What did Litost do? Poof the guy out of existence? Whatever it is, I think Litost is a person to be wary of for future chapters. We've talked about Thelema before, discussing that she is potentially part of the 12 houses, the group of people that Goddess Enadina said would create a new future with their own hands, but there's something else. I've talked about Ajita being at Thelema's birthday party a lot, but have you ever wondered why she is even there? Did Thelema invite her? This is before the 7 shoes became the 7 shoes, so did they have a friendship before the 7 shoes? I don't think so, and the scary thing is, I don't even think she was invited. All the other people at this party have seemed to have known Thelema for a long time and have been a part of her group, so Ajita sticks out like a sore thumb. Not to mention, Thelema was acting weird, hiding at her own birthday party and denying that she's Thelema. This is her birthday, but she doesn't look very happy. Why is she hiding? It's almost like she doesn't want someone to find her. Ajita did say it's as if she's purposefully avoiding all the guests. Yeah, I think Thelema's just avoiding you, and I don't blame her. Now, some of you may be sitting there saying to yourselves, does this really matter? Yes, Thelema's acting a little weird at her own birthday party, but it's a major assumption to say that it's all because of Ajita. Plus, Thelema hasn't been a part of Ajita's story whatsoever. Are you sure? See, I do agree with you. I normally wouldn't give this a second thought, but this isn't the first time Thelema got brought up in a seemingly random scenario. Remember the Soul Healing Center? I told you in the last video that when we attempted to go back, it was closed off to the public, and when we tried to get some info, Vita spoke to herself. But what I didn't tell you was before she spoke about the male doctor, she spoke about Thelema, saying as expected of Thelema, she could even pack a robot vacuum. Followed by, no, I still think the doctor's more intriguing. Then she talks about the male doctor. So Vita also thinks Thelema is intriguing. Why? Also, the robot vacuum that Thelema packed is perception, which is Ajita's tool. I have no theories on that because that is completely out of the blue. All of this is out of the blue. Thelema had seemingly nothing to do with any of this, but now Vita's got her eyes on her and Ajita's at her birthday party. What was she doing there? Because I guarantee it wasn't to celebrate. This is going to seem disconnected, but I promise it makes sense. Just stay with me. Let's talk about Savore again. More specifically, Savore and Ajita's deal. Since they have a deal going on for over 2 millennia at this point, Savore has special access to Ajita's things. Case in point in this anecdote, when Ajita invited Savore into one of her storehouses. Even more, Ajita asked if Savore could look over her collection, and that proves that Ajita sort of trusts Savore and gives her access to her storehouse. Since they've had a deal going on for 2 millennia, this could have taken place before the 7 shoes even existed. Let's switch over to Baiji. After Baiji's finished reminiscing about something that's not important, a guy comes up to him and Baiji asks about the matter he asked him to investigate. The guy talks about some sort of building where the security is incredibly tight and that they snatched a single page of a document for an astral rain. At first I thought, okay, this could be the astral rain Senna gave Dreamseeker, because if you remember in this video, we talked extensively about how Ajita knew about the Zodiac astral rain before anyone else did. But in this anecdote, Baiji clearly knew about an astral rain before anybody else did, and this matches up with that. But then I had a brain blast, or a brain fart, you decide. I had 2 questions when I originally saw this. What is this place where the security's tight and there is a document of some sort? And why is a person from the Lantern organization talking to him? Why would Savore's people be talking to him? What does Savore and the organization have anything to do with this? Even when the 7 shoes were a thing, they barely spoke to each other, and this is 100 years earlier, so what is going on here? Correction, I forgot that Savore did have a special partnership with Baiji. This might be extra evidence for a theory I'm about to share with you, so keep this in mind. Then everything clicked. Maybe since Savore has access to Ajita's storehouse, her crew does as well, and so this place is Ajita's storehouse? While this might be a stretch, it would make sense. If there was a document for an astral rain in one of Ajita's storehouses, that would explain why she knows about these Zodiac astral rain before anyone else did. Is Baiji trying to get intel on Ajita because he's suspicious of her? I know what you're thinking. This is just my wild speculation based on a stretch. There's no actual proof that Baiji is suspicious of Ajita. What if I told you there was? When we first met Baiji in chapter 5 and brought up the topic of jade plaques, Coralie says that the cast could gain up on him and snatch his plaque. He goes on to say you can tell a person's character by their actions, and he's already determined that we could could never be the type to fleece others of their belongings. But then he says, others might not come to the same conclusion, so be careful. When he said this, he was looking off to the side and not at them, which is a little weird, but it all makes sense when a couple seconds later, we see Ajita hiding in the exact same place that Baiji was looking. It gets confirmed later on when Dreamseeker says that Baiji gave them a heads up about Ajita. It was more than just a heads up though, because Baiji just indirectly accused Ajita of stealing jade plaques. Since Ajita has plenty of jade plaques for some unknown reason, this could be exactly what she's doing. Whether Baiji knows she's doing this or is just suspicious of her, this confirms that Baiji already had bad blood towards Ajita and was skeptical of her. It's not hard to be honest. I think Baiji was looking into Ajita, but before he could find out what she was about, he got stuck in this partnership, whether it was blackmail like we talked about in the last video, or she did something else to him. It's clear that we need to save our boy. The Sky People theory has been my favorite theory for this game I have ever done. Not only because it is my longest theory and I'm proud I was capable of it, but also the process of making and finding the evidence for those videos was very exciting for me. And a lot of things have happened after those videos that we must discuss. While Baiji is a good guy, which makes half my theory wrong, it happens, Ajita is not beating the Sky Person allegations as easily. When Chapter 3 EX came out, one question popped in my head. If this whole thing is a simulation made by a quantum computer, and if the Sky People are here, how can there also be Sky People in reality? The Sky People are a real threat created by Saw, made on Venus, and it will invade Earth. How did they also end up in a quantum computer unless a fellow Sky Person created the quantum computer? There could be a possibility that since Ajita made the quantum computer, it's one of the advanced technologies that the Sky People have. If I am right about this place being Ajita's storehouse and Ajita having a document about the Zodiac asteroid, there's a question about how she got the document. Since Ajita immediately used it to try and suck up all of the shadow energy, that's pretty suspicious. Let's also not forget that Ajita is over 2,000 years old. I mentioned this before, but it's so important that I'll say it again. Most of the people in Linkchu are 100 years old, with the oldest being 150. That confirms that Ajita is way different than anyone else here. She's the odd one out, and I guarantee she hasn't been here for over 2,000 years, so what's she been up to? There's also the hand thing, but also these enemies. These enemies have only shown up twice in Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. In Chapter 4, they showed up when Vita was messing everything up, but if you also noticed during Vita's invasion, there's a lot of familiar looking portals, which makes sense because Vita was born from Saw. That could suggest that these are Sky People, but they don't really look like Sky People at all. My alternative theory would be that Vita created these creatures. After defeating the fish-like creature at the end of Chapter 4, Dreamseeker says Teresa defeated the monster you created, and Vita confirms it by saying it's just a toy she discarded. Since the fish has the same color scheme as these enemies, then maybe she created these too? Let's put this question about what these are in the back of our minds for now. Semantics aside, these enemies only showed up when Vita was wreaking havoc in the world, which is why it's interesting in Chapter 5 when Ajita tricks Coralie and Helia and sends them back to the future. When they try to get out, these enemies pop up again, and this time Vita's trying to help them. Yes, Vita does say Layla's name at at the end of all this, hinting that Layla did this. But if Layla did, the fact that Layla chose to let these enemies out right before they escaped Ajita's trap is too coincidental for me to ignore. It's like what I said in one of my previous videos. Everything we've seen Layla do or attempt to do seems to weirdly also benefit Ajita. It's like they're in cahoots somehow. There's also the fact that Vita used them to mess the world up in the last chapter, and since Ajita may be in on this stunt in chapter 5, it's like Ajita and Vita have something in common, and I wonder what that could be. Whew. That was a lot, but I finally got through every piece of evidence I have found so far. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree or have any other theories? Comment down below if you do, I'd love to read them. If you liked this video, why not subscribe to the channel? It would help me a lot, and I create honkai theories like this one all the time. I will see you all in chapter 6.